Welcome to Fantasy Football Live, presented by Ram Trucks. Week 9 is here. We got tricks, we got treats. We're basically the full-size candy bar of fantasy football shows, because for the next 30 minutes, we're going to get you caught up on everything you need to know. For tonight, we'll get you a little sneak peek of the weekend. Obviously, boys, we're looking good. I'm just saying, I feel like I'm being trolled right out of the gate. So because Andy Behrens, Sal Vetri, I'm Jason Fitz. Andy Behrens, you chose to come as, I don't know, a quarterback that I watched beat my favorite team recently. You chose to wear a costume of Andy Dalton. Good sir, explain yourself.
I wasn't intending to torment you. I actually realized that years ago on Fantasy Football Live, I was also Andy Dalton in a previous iteration. I believe that I have gone as Cincinnati Bengal Andy Dalton in I don't know, maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago. So I'm just running it back. He's changed. He's rebranded. I've rebranded. I think it's a fitting costume.
First and foremost, if I didn't let you dress up as any player that had tormented the Raiders, you wouldn't be able to dress as any player. Most importantly, I love the fact that there's this thing going on where Andy's got the whole thing glued onto his face. Let's see if we can get him to laugh the beard off. That's the goal. Sal Vetri, I came as a football because we were given the specific instruction to be football related, and because I'm a moron, I just decided, hey, what's football related? How about a football? I'm the whole damn thing. Sal, explain to me, because you are obviously, John Cena and doing a great job of it. You've always been the John Cena of this show. But the football-related portion of it, my friend, how we getting there? How we getting there?
Yeah, John Cena, 16-time world champion, granted the most Make-A-Wishes. Sure, those things are fantastic and great, but also, let's remember where it all started. Division III All-American, that's All-American center, John Cena. So we're paying respects on this program to that man, the center All-American John Cena.
We are the first show in the history of fantasy football to reference Springfield College in Massachusetts. You're welcome. Home of a beautiful casino, by the way. All right, let's get into the fantasy football everybody's here for. Obviously, a big trade this week. Deontay Johnson goes from Carolina to Baltimore, to the Baltimore Ravens. John Cena, your thoughts on Deontay Johnson going there? What's it going to mean, Sal?
Yeah, so right when it happens, you think, oh, the literal worst offense in the NFL, according to PFF, and now he's going to the best offense. This has to mean good things for fantasy football. And then I took a second to think about it, and I don't think that it is. I think Deontay Johnson, it gets worse for him rest of season from a fantasy perspective, because he's going into an offense, although efficient, although scoring a lot of points, they only throw the ball 29 times per game. Bottom 5 in the NFL. And even if Deontay is able to withstand his career 26% target share, you're looking at 5 to 6 targets a week as an average to a good game for him. And that's a concern for me moving forward. We know this team wants to run the ball a ton. We know Zay Flowers is breaking out, coming off a 100-yard game. Mark Andrews is getting going, and this has been the best season of Rashad Bateman's career. So 5 to 6 targets a game is a worse outcome than what we were getting for Deontay. Yes, on a bad Panthers offense, but he was still seeing more volume and finding the end zone.
All right, we've got everybody already in the chat. You guys are fired up in the YouTube chat. You like the costumes. Thanks for being so kind. Get involved. Use the hashtag AskFFL to drop any questions you've got on social media. Plus, we'll be monitoring the YouTube chat as we go to get all of your questions answered as best we can. We are here on Thursday night, not just for Halloween, but also for Thursday Night Football, a matchup that's scary because we have to watch it. Let's take a look at what we got. The Houston Texans at the New York Jets, because apparently the league decided we should watch every Jets game this year. The Jets somehow miraculously favored by 2.5. That also scary. Over and under on this one is 43. Let's take a look at some of the actives, inactives. A couple of big names here, a couple of players that you guys have relied on much of this season. Alan Lazard, who's actually been a bigger contributor than we expected in the offense, placed on injured reserve this afternoon with the chest injury. Stephon Diggs out for the season. So, Andy Behrens, what's the fallout for Diggs not being part of this offense?
Oh, brutal. First of all, I got to tell you, the Diggs fantasy drop hurt so bad. It's a brutal situation for him, obviously. He wasn't seeing exactly the same usage that he's seen in recent seasons, not really getting downfield to the same extent, but he was still drawing 7 to 9 targets each week. And he was having a productive game when the injury happened. Now it's kind of a choose your own adventure for fantasy managers who want to take a flyer on a CJ Stroud offense, right? John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson are probably the most interesting receivers, but realistically, you aren't starting them in a 10-team or a 12-team fantasy league. Dalton Schultz, I think, becomes a playable tight end, but that's really kind of an indictment of the position as much as it is flattery toward Dalton Schultz. hard to imagine the Texans aren't gonna shop in the receiver market a little bit in the days ahead, although now the best options like Deontay are already gone. So we have no easy fixes here except for Nico Collins returning to full health, which needs to happen urgently. When it does, it's going to be wheels up again for CJ Stroud.
I'll give you a little hint here. That's not the last time you're going to hear the words Dalton Schultz in this show. I can promise you that. Let's take a look at some of the other players to watch in this Texans-Jets matchup. Andy Behrens, since you've got the beard working right now, we'll stick with you. Give me another player you've got your eyes on.
Yeah, I do. It's luxurious too. Joe Mixon is kind of the easy one here. When healthy, Joe Mixon has simply not missed this year. 6 touchdowns in 5 games. He's averaging over 100 rushing yards per game. He's producing the highest yards per carry of his career, over 100 yards 4 times in 5 games this year. It's just a vintage version of Mixon, and we're getting it in his 8th NFL season at age 28. He's also handled 25 or more carries in 3 different games, so he is just the true centerpiece of this offense right now as it currently exists. He's a rare difference maker at the position. By the way, also catching 3 or 4 passes each week. He is fully accredited as a receiving threat. He's about to face a Jets defense that actually ranks middle of the pack against the run and has given up big fantasy weeks recently to Ramondre Stevenson, Najee Harris, and Ray Davis. Those are all in consecutive weeks. So just like he is every week, Mixon, an absolutely must-start RB1 tonight.
All right, I'll give you a player to watch, but player to watch doesn't always mean positive. And for me, I'm going to go to CJ Stroud on this one. CJ Stroud is usually a peanut butter cup, the perfect treat that you hope somebody's got in their bin. This week he might be a Twizzlers because Twizzlers are trash. Sorry, Twizzlers. That's just fact.
Wow.
Look, at the end of the day, I know I'm throwing that out there. Stroud last year against the Jets before he was pulled in that game because of injury, 10 of 23 for 91 yards. Not a great performance. Also, the Jets are only giving up 9.9 passing points per game in fantasy this season defensively. Their defense is better than we're giving it credit for. Just because the team is trash, defensively, their passing defense is not trash. And also, the way you get fantasy points against this Jets defense, the only time there's been any success has been with a quarterback that can not only throw, but also can run for a touchdown. That's not really part of what CJ Stroud's game plan is. I love CJ Stroud, the player. I hate CJ Stroud in this matchup. So I'm cautious about anybody from the Texans in this game because I don't know what to expect there. And yes, I threw shade at all the Twizzlers. Sal, feel free to work Candy Takes into your player to watch. Who you got for us?
Yeah, my player to watch is Davante Adams tonight because it's been now 2 weeks that he's been a part of this Jets team, and we haven't really seen that connection that a lot of people are expecting right away between him and his former quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. But you have to keep in mind that it's been less than 2 weeks of practice for these guys together. They're both recovering from their own injuries. Heck, Rodgers has 3 different injuries that he's dealing with, and there was a lot of time between the last time they played together. So I think there's some rust there for sure. But the good thing is Davante Adams has been out there for 99% of the routes since joining this Jets team the last 2 weeks. So he appears to at least be healthy enough to be on the field, earning 7.5 targets per game. And I think that's encouraging. I think we get another couple of days, another full week last week of practice between the 2 of these guys. And I want to see tonight if we can get that connection going, because coming out of this game, Davante the rest of the season, and Garrett Wilson for that matter, have great schedules. You're going to get matchups against teams like the Colts and the Cardinals coming up, bottom 10 secondaries. And in the fantasy postseason, you get the Rams and the Jaguars, who are 2 bottom 5 secondaries this year. As of right now, I think those are nice matchups. I want to see it tonight. That's somebody I'm watching is Davante Adams.
All right, let's get to some ways to help you make a little cash because you need some candy spending money. By the way, great graphics by the team on these Halloween spooky player props. I'll give you a prop that I like. I just teased that we would hear his name again. Dalton Schultz, 4.5 receptions. Hear me out. Dalton Schultz is not a world beater by most people's estimation. He is coming off of his biggest yardage game last week, 52 yards last week. But here's where it really gets interesting to me. Look at his target share, all right? When Nico's on the field, when Nico Collins is on the field, his target share is 12.7. When Nico's not on the field, that target share goes up to 17.5. The Jets are about midway through the league, 15th in points allowed to tight ends this year. The Jets are susceptible to get beat on some catches for the tight end position, and somebody's got to get the target. So I actually like Dalton Schultz, not to have a big yardage game, but to just pick up some plays along the way that will get him the over on the 4.5. Look at me coming in with the research. Sal, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I guess we're sticking with the tight ends tonight, which is definitely spooky. And I'm going with an under here for Tyler Conklin of the Jets, 25.5 receiving yards. Look, this is a pretty solid tight end by NFL standards. He can get open in the secondary. And this is a player that earlier in the season was actually somewhat of like a security blanket for Aaron Rodgers. Now, he was never a priority in the offense. It was look Garrett Wilson's way. That wasn't open. Look Allen Lazard's way. That wasn't open. Okay, let's check down to Tyler Conklin. He had a couple of fantasy relevant days earlier in the year, but then he sort of disappeared. He's been under this 25.5 receiving yards number in 5 out of 8 games this year. And now the competition for targets is tougher with Devontae Adams out there. Still Garrett Wilson, 2 very high target earners, 25% plus share guys. So it's kind of getting squeezed for Tyler Conklin right now. And it's a brutal matchup. A short week against the Texans, who allow the least receiving yards per game to tight ends. So I'm going with the under here for Tyler Conklin.
All right, Andy Behrens, maybe you've got some, I don't know, you got a kicker for us this time? You got like the water boy? What do you got for us?
Yeah, my pledge to you, Fitz, is that I will never take a normal prop in this segment.
Thank you.
And I will also probably never take an under if we're being realistic. Give me CJ Stroud over 8.5 rushing yards. I'm not asking for a big night from him. I'm just asking for like double-digit rushing yards. That's it. Stroud is facing a defense that can really heat up a quarterback, so I know I'm getting enough scrambles and rush attempts to reach this total. He's actually topped this number 5 times this season, basically whenever he runs 3 or more times, which is definitely happening here, again, because they're going to get after him. Stroud is actually a very capable runner who simply doesn't do it by design. 7 quarterbacks have exceeded this total against the Jets this season. Couple of them did it just last week, and I am pretty confident that Stroud is going to be number 8, and he's doing it tonight.
I love these random props you come up with. By the way, Tyler B in the YouTube chat gets a gold star for working a Halloween costume reference into his comment. I'm on Robert Woods' watch tonight. He's going to dress up as a younger Bob Woods tonight. I like this. I like the concept. He's dressing up as a younger version of himself. All right, let's get to some trick or treat. Some fantasy players. We'll lay out the player. We'll decide whether or not they're going to be a trick or a treat. Also, I should show you boys, I got this little like fun thing that I could do with my costume, right? Like, see, when it's up, it's like, it's normal, it's big, it's fluffy, it's like a normal football, right? I lower my arms, bam, it's a Tom Brady football. Trick, treat, trick, treat. All right, there we go. I got all the jokes. All right, Sal, give me Bucky Irving, trick or treat this week.
Yeah, I think Bucky Irving is a treat, not just this week despite a tough matchup, but the rest of the season. And last week was like worst case scenario for this guy. It starts out, he's not practicing, looks like he's not going to play. And all of a sudden, he's now trending to play after a limited participation in Friday practice. And all of a sudden, he's leading what was a 3-headed backfield in opportunities with 16. And once again, he goes out there and averages over 5 yards per touch and looks like the best running back on the Bucs. And we get some good takeaways from that game. We see Sean Tucker not seeing as much usage, just 10% of the snaps. It started to become a 2-man backfield again. And if that's the case, I'm betting on Bucky Irving over Rachaad White, a guy who's coming off of a 7-reception game. The first game without Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, everybody's saying which wide receiver is going to step up? It wasn't any of them. It was a tight end, K. Dotton, and then the running backs. I think that continues the next few weeks and even the rest of the season. I want to bet on the guy averaging nearly 6 yards per touch this year. Even in a tough matchup, I think he can get there in the receiving department. Bucky Irving is a treat.
All right, in that case, Andy Behrens, I walk up to your door, I ring the doorbell, you come out, and instead of saying trick or treat, I just say, give me a trick. Who's a trick this week?
I would tell you that Xavier Worthy is tricking you. He's very fast while he does it, but you are being tricked. I want to be clear that I'm not actually saying that you just can't play him this week or in any week. He's getting Tampa here, and they've been a very generous pass defense, giving up 15 passing scores. I get it. But Worthy is getting it done on touchdowns only this season. He has 5 on just 26 touches. He has only 1 game over 50 receiving yards and none over 75. And that's fine. He's a developmental prospect. This is the first half of his first season. But that 2-touchdown opening week still has people wanting to proactively start him. They throw him into questions with just no doubt volume receivers, guys who should be locked in wide receiver 2s. Kansas City just traded for DeAndre Hopkins. Travis Kelce is coming off a big game. Juju eventually comes back. They do not need to feed Worthy, and they haven't been. Generally speaking, he's getting 1 carry a game. He might get 3 or 4 catches, not big yardage totals. This is a trick.
All right, so I take my little bag next door back to Sal's house, and I say, hey, I just got a great trick over at Andy's house. Give me a trick, Sal.
Yeah, there's no bigger trick in fantasy football right now, in my opinion, than Tucker Kraft of the Green Bay Packers. He currently ranks 7th in tight end fantasy points per game, but his expected fantasy points per game, which is based on his role and based on usually what should be happening, is 20th in the league. That ranks around guys like Tyler Conklin discussed earlier, and also Jonnu Smith, tight ends who are on most waiver wires right now. And now the reason this is happening, he's in a good, efficient offense, so he's scoring some touchdowns. He's scoring a touchdown on 20% of his receptions this year. For some context, that's 4 to 5 times higher than the NFL average. What you're seeing right now is a complete trick. He's averaging an 11% target share the last month since every single Packers receiver came back from injury or suspension. I'm looking at you, Romeo Doubs. That's behind Josh Jacobs, the running back, and wide receiver 4, Dontavian Wicks. This player, more the weeks than not, when he doesn't score a touchdown, is going to get you 2 or 3 catches for 30 yards. He's somebody I think you should be trading away right now if you can, maybe for our treat Bucky Irving, and especially with Jordan Love banged up, he's somebody who's a trick.
You just made me cry because I got him on a bunch of my teams and felt good about him. All right, so now I go back to Andy Behrens' house and I say, all right, Uncle Sal made me cry. Give me a treat. Let's end this thing with a positive. Give me the most delightful treat I could ever ask for, Andy Behrens.
Yeah, I'm going to give you double peanut butter cups here. I'm going to give you a king-size Butterfinger. Chase Brown, big old orange Illini treat. He has 5 touchdowns in his last 5 games for Cincinnati. Double-digit touches in each of those games. He's now generally playing over 50% of the snaps. He's out-touching Zach Moss. The roles between those two have flipped. Brown has leapfrogged him. He's averaging 4.6 yards per carry. He's effective at the goal line. He's caught 16 passes. It's all happening for Brown. With all due respect to your Raiders, Fitz, they are not a stay-away matchup for running backs, and we can expect the run to be in play all day this week. Brown's role has grown, and he's thriving, and he's also headed into an appealing matchup in Week 9. That is just a big old juicy treat.
I love that you gave me a treat by also trashing my favorite team. That's great. All right, Let's get to some Make Your Pick, where we'll answer some questions from you guys, like why does Andy want to hurt me so bad on Halloween? Those are the sorts of questions we got. This one comes from Jimmy O. It's the first one. Jimmy Ochoa? We'll say that. Jimmy O asking us for a flex. Tank Dell, Waddle, or Mostert? Sal, what do you think?
You know, it's going to be Tank Dell for me tonight. And Waddle is an interesting buy low player for me. I think you can get him pretty cheap, assuming that you could. But he's always going to be playing second fiddle to Tyreek Hill. And even now, Devon Achane last week touched a 20% target share. So he's getting involved a lot as a receiver. But for one Tank Dell, he's a top 20 wide receiver this week. And look, yes, the obvious is just stating that Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins are out. And I think that's worthy of saying. But also, Tank Dell every game this year has had at least 4 targets with those guys out there. The target volume, in theory, should go up tonight. But I will admit this isn't the perfect spot. It is a short week. It is against a solid Jets secondary. And also, he's like the only guy out there that's threatening. If you're the Jets and their defense, you're saying Xavier Hutchinson, nah. A 32-year-old Robert Woods, probably not. John Mechie, nah. Like, they're probably going to focus their attention on Tank Dell, which does scare me. But out of the options there, I'm the most confident in him getting you 10+ fantasy points.
All right, let's get the next question in coming from Kevin Black. Kevin Black in a half PPR says, Conklin, Noah Fant, or Jonnu Smith? What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I think, first of all, Sal already gave you the under on Conklin's yardage, so that'd be a little awkward if I took him. He is so touchdown dependent. Now, he's scored in each of the last 2 weeks, which is, I'm sure, why you're tempted to play him. But there's just not a lot of volume here. And if we're getting points for receptions, I don't think I want to do it. So this, for me, comes down to Fant or Smith. I'm going to go Noah Fant. I'm an Iowa guy. I always go Noah Fant. But that is like a sneaky shootout of a game, right, between the Rams and Seahawks. They are both vulnerable defenses. I think where Fant operates is where they can really attack. So I like Fant this week, especially in any sort of PPR.
The irony of the fact that Iowa tight ends score so many touchdowns in the NFL, yet don't even know what the end zone looks like when they're at Iowa. Joshua Alderman comes in with the next question. Start 3, Saquon, Devon Achane, Kenneth Walker III, Jahmyr Gibbs. Help! Ask FFL. Sal, what do you think?
Oh man, you don't need help. You have just a gold mine here. I don't know if this is an 8-man league, a 10-man league, but either way, try and trade one of these guys away and improve a different position. Great job drafting, trading, whatever you did here. Saquon is a set it and forget it start every week for me. Don't care the matchup. Just love the talent, the volume, and the role he's in behind that offensive line. And Jahmyr Gibbs right now off of back-to-back elite games, top 5 running back on the week type performances. Now he gets the Packers, who might not have Jordan Love. This is somebody that I want to play who should be in a very good game script against some weak linebackers. It really comes down to Devon Achane and Kenneth Walker here for me. But if I had to pick between the two, and it hurts me to say this, I would be sitting Devon Achane and I would be starting Kenneth Walker this week. Kenneth Walker, who I would assume, or I would say, is in a better matchup against the Rams. They allow the 6th most rushing efficiency to RBs this year. And Walker over the past month, pass catching running back Walker, a 17% target share, top 5 amongst running backs during that time. I'll be starting him. I think you have 4 top 15 running backs though for on the week. So if you can, try and trade one.
All right, let's look at the injury report. Some notable players who missed practice today. You guys want to keep an eye out. There's a lot of names on this list. The first one, obviously a big name, Lamar Jackson with the back injury, Tyjae Spears with hamstring injury, Tony Pollard with the foot injury. Those are just page 1. There's so many of these. On page 2, we get you a couple of these also, as we've got a group here from T. Higgins, David Njoku, Dallas Goedert, and then Puka Nacua reportedly left practice early with a knee injury. So we'll keep all eyes on that. And obviously, if you don't watch us on Sunday, you should watch us. Andy, any concern with Puka Nacua leaving practice early?
Oh, a lot of concern. Man, that offense, and some of it is just because the Rams are about as fun to watch as any team in the league when they have all the pieces, right? Nate Tice went over it this week on the podcast. They're about as efficient as any team has been over the last 5 or 6 years when we get a version of the Rams that has Kyren Williams, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Matt Stafford all together on the field. You saw it last week against Minnesota. It was great. I want to see it for the rest of the year. So yeah, I'm concerned. We'll have to see what Sean McVay says on Friday.
Again, stick with us on Sundays before kickoff. We'll get you all of the latest on these injuries as we get more information. Now, let's turn to our fantasy game changers for this week, powered by Ram Trucks, where we're identifying some of the most impactful players in one of the top fantasy matchups on the schedule. That's right, the Cowboys headed down to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Falcons favored by 3. The over and under on this one, a juicy 51.5. Andy Behrens, when I say fantasy game changer, this one, you say?
Oh, I'm going to say Kirk Cousins. It feels like a lifetime ago that we were fretting about Cousins being in. Remember, he was in shotgun all the time in week 1. He's immobile, helpless. He was doomed. Cousins is now coming off his second 4-touchdown game of the season. He's on pace for another 30-touchdown season. He's just generally having the standard issue, very good Kirk Cousins year. He's keeping 3 different receivers fantasy relevant each week. Also, he's responsible for 3 game-winning drives this year. He has played well, inarguably well. I know nobody watching this show is scared of the Dallas defense. That's a damaged group that's allowed 30-plus points in 4 different games this season, including their last 2. We've been dogging them all year. Dallas has allowed the 6th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks this year. And listen, we've already seen Cousins take full advantage of great matchups this year. So we are starting him with enthusiasm this week everywhere.
I'm starting him with enthusiasm. That's a wonderful caveat. All right, John Cena, give me your enthusiasm for somebody that's a game changer.
Yeah, that breakdown by Andy was great. It makes me feel even more confident in my fantasy game changer, and it's Kirk Cousins' #1 receiver, Drake London, who had a rare stinker of a performance last week by his standards, just 4 catches for 34 yards. But before that game, you had 6 straight performances of at least 6 catches, at least 12 fantasy points, and sometimes these games just happen. There's not much to explain away here. You had a couple of deep touchdowns that didn't go to Drake London, so those drives were pretty short plays, 40-plus yard reception touchdowns. Drake London's not going to get his. But this week, I'm expecting a bounce back because everything is still there for him. He's seeing the great usage, being put in motion before the snap, being put into the slot, intermediate and downfield usage occasionally, but very consistent targets coming his way from Kirk Cousins. And now he gets that great matchup against Dallas that Andy was just mentioning. You have Trevion Diggs not playing as well. You have Jerron Blandman banged up the entire season. This secondary is suspect, and the defensive line is banged up. A lot of times for Kirk Cousins to throw and find Drake London. I think he's going to be a game changer.
Aren't you guys cute with your answers that aren't CeeDee Lamb? When we talk about fantasy game changer, this is just, at some point we can't oversimplify. I realize that, but CeeDee Lamb is everything to this offense. And you look at the target share for the last 2 weeks, it has blown up. Why? Because he's the only thing on this offense that's worth having. So at some point, if you're the Cowboys, the more desperate you get, the more you're just going to continue to force feed the ball to CeeDee no matter what. And by the way, he's going to catch it. Right. So the more they get into a hole, the more I think CeeDee gets the ball. And you look at the targets the last 2 games, it's just through the roof. for a reason. I think it was 12 games, 2 games, 12 targets, was 17 against the 49ers. Like, this is a one-man offense, and the man that I'm talking about is not named Dak. So I want to give you some great, clever answer here, but fantasy game changer, if CD isn't a game changer for the Cowboys, it's a game changer against the Cowboys. Any way you want to look at it, game changer. All right, let's get to scary fantasy predictions for week 9. Now, scary, let's be clear here, Andy Dalton, means bold, all right? Like, scary Andy Dalton. I need you to go out and be the Andy Dalton you were against the Raiders, not the Andy Dalton you've been since then. We need bold. We need daring. We need something magical. Give it to me. What do you got?
Fitz, we have a mega week ahead for Sam Darnold on Sunday night, another former Panther. We've done a lot of talking about the Colts offense this week, but let's not sleep on the fact that they have a bottom third pass defense and a poor run D as well. The Vikings are at home, in need of a get-right game after the loss to the Rams, and they just have the perfect opponent waiting for them. Darnold coming off a multi-touchdown game. It was his 5th of the year. He is still producing career best rates across the board, completion percentage, yards per attempt, passer rating, all of it. This is looking like it might actually be his first week with Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, all in the mix, the full complement of weapons. We have a top 5 fantasy finish incoming.
Ooh, now that is, I love that. Look, this Halloween edition of you is fiery. All right, I'll give you a hot take, a bold prediction. The bold prediction for me is that Miami's about to explode offensively. Now, I'm not saying they'll beat the Bills. They're going to give them a scare, and they're going to score a bunch of points. We've lost in this sort of narrative. Last week, the Dolphins get Tua back, but they lose the football game, and they lose to a Cardinals team that is playing better than I think people are giving them credit for. But in the meantime, we're sort of losing that there wasn't any rust, that everything did click differently, that Tua came in and looked a lot like the Tua we expect. And what do you know? The Miami offense looked like the Miami offense we expect. When you score 27 points, you should win football games. That's sort of the way it works. And to me, I expected there to be rust for Tua to knock off. Instead, he came in and immediately showed, to take a shot, I use this word too much, efficiency in what he was trying to accomplish. That Miami defense looks right. I think Miami gets really right in this one, puts an absolute scare in the Bills, and reminds us all that this offense, when they have their starters, can score on anybody from anywhere at any time. Big game coming in. All right, Sal, give us the John Cena, give us the champion. We've saved the champion for last year. Give us the champion of all bold predictions.
Yeah, this is the You Can't See Me prediction of the week, and it's Brian Robinson is going to finish as a top 5 overall running back for the first time this season. Now, that might not sound too bold, but he hasn't even finished in the top 12 this year, despite being very consistent. He scored 10 or more fantasy points in 6 of 7 starts. The only time he didn't was last week. Tough matchup against the Bears, and he still puts up a respectable 70-plus yards on 17 touches. But those 17 touches were important to me because he was returning from a knee injury, and he's looked completely fine since then in a couple of games. Looks like it's not holding him back. He's seeing over 60% of the snaps and plenty of opportunities, and that matters this week because he's going to take on a division rival, the Giants. He's a favorite, which is important for his game script, but also the Giants allow the most explosive runs this year and the most rushing yards per play. I think we're looking at a week where we get a 100-yard performance from Brian Robinson and at least 1 touchdown, and he finishes as a top 5 back on the week.
Ooh, we are bringing the fun. Something about candy. Sugar gets us all amped up. Let's see how that helps us as we get to the hurry-up offense. All right, it's time to get everybody huddled up. We put 25 seconds on the clock. We see how we can do. The first question comes from Alicia Woodruff, who says, should I play Wilson tonight? Have Metcalf, Worthy, Tillman on bench as other options? Ask FFL. I'll ask Andy Behrens. What do you think?
Yeah, this could blow up on me, but I'm going to tell you, no, you should not play Garrett Wilson tonight. And listen, Houston has given up some passing touchdowns. I get it. They're also allowing just 6 yards per attempt on the year, fewer than 200 passing yards per week. I want Metcalf here. If he can't play, I am a resident of Cedric Tillman Island, so I don't mind that pivot either.
All right, Anthony comes in with the next question. CJ Stroud tonight, or take a chance that Jordan Love plays this weekend. Superflex, my other quarterback is Darnold. Ask FFL. I'll ask Sal. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to be taking a chance on seeing if Jordan Love plays, and I don't even feel that confident that Love plays, but CJ Stroud is a bottom 10 ranked quarterback for me this week. Honestly, if you have options on the waiver wire like Joe Flacco and Derek Carr, you probably don't, but I would start them. Worst case, start Malik Willis if Love misses.
All right, Bart Furley comes in next. Says Adams or Hopkins in one league, Adams or Reed in my other league. Twofer. It's a twofer, Andy Behrens. What do you got?
Oh yeah, I was going all in on Devontae Adams working for you. I'm not quite here with DeAndre Hopkins yet. I thought it looked pretty good last week, but it was a nice little proof of concept game. But I don't think I could go there. I'd go Adams in that league, and then I'd go Reed in the other. His best games have just been totally unlike anything Adams has produced.
All right, if you were being chased by zombies, you would have died. They caught you. All right, Nathan comes. Need my last flex spot filled. Reed, MHJ, or Tank Dell? Leaning Dell since dude I'm facing has Stroud. Great context. Sal, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you have it right here in terms of leaning Dell. Like, we saw the great week from Marvin Harrison Jr. last week, but I'm a little bit concerned in that consistency. He did a lot of it downfield. We haven't seen that week to week this year. A couple of big plays. Can that keep up? I'm going with Tank Dell and what seems like a pretty secure target share.
You were also caught by the zombies. Drew comes in, says Stroud or Stafford. Ask FFL. Andy Behrens, what do you think?
Yeah, there has not been a lot of confidence in CJ Stroud on this show tonight, and I'm not going to give you any either. I don't think you can do it. I agree with Sal. I think he's probably a bottom 10 quarterback this week. I want Matthew Stafford. Hopefully Puka can go. If Puka can go, then we've got the full complement of weapons. I feel great about Stafford.
Dara comes in. Dara, oh, wait, we got Dara. We have Dara coming in. Mooney or McMillan over Adams? Ask FFL. Sal, what do you think?
Ooh, this one's close between Mooney and Adams. I'll go with Adams here. Everything I mentioned earlier still stands. I think we start to see a connection tonight between him and Rodgers, a couple more practices together. And I just like what we're going to get matchup-wise for Adams. Won't have a safety over top the entire game in this one.
All right, I'm breaking the rules real quick. Ernesto, this is a quick one. Tank Dell or Ridley? Ernesto asked Tank Dell or Ridley? Andy Behrens, what do you think?
Yeah, I want Tank Dell. I think he's going to get peppered with targets tonight. I know Ridley had a great game last week, but give me Dell. Let's just get it over with tonight.
Halloween, man of the people, we ran over for it. That does it for this edition of Fantasy Football Live. Remember, we're back here Sunday morning at noon to 1. We get you set for all of the remainder of Week 9. And, of course, we're back every single Thursday for Thursday Night Football. I got to give a huge shout-out to everybody behind the scenes. We always commend their work, but particularly everything you saw tonight that was Halloween-themed was because of hard work from people behind the scenes. We couldn't do the show without them. We love them. We appreciate them, and we appreciate you for watching. Andy Behrens, Sal Vetri, I'm Jason Fitz. Thank you so much for watching Fantasy Football Live, presented by Ram Trucks.